This twist ranking is the more laudable UE is penalty to win its final case by Dagatos. Like, so the link to the video will be the description below. Go and check them out. So let's into this ranking 3, 2, 1.
Attorney Dalton Pierce stood before the jury, delivering his closing argument in the biggest case of his career. But beneath his tailored suit, he was hiding something that could destroy everything he'd worked for. He was 7 months pregnant, and no one in that courtroom had any idea. Dalton
7 months pregnant? Wow, congrats.
Pierce had clawed his way to the top of Chicago's cutthroat legal world. At 32, he was a senior associate at Sterling & Cross, one of the most prestigious law firms in the city. He specialized in corporate litigation, high-stakes cases worth millions of dollars. Dalton had transitioned 8 years ago during law school. It hadn't been easy. He'd faced discrimination, skepticism, and countless people who doubted a transgender man could succeed in a field dominated by conservative old men in expensive suits. But Dalton proved them all wrong. He won cases. He made the firm money. He earned respect. Most of his colleagues had no idea he was trans. He'd legally changed all his documents before joining the firm. He wore perfectly tailored three-piece suits. He had a deep voice, a strong handshake, and the confidence of someone who'd fought for every inch of ground he stood on. His personal life was quieter. 2 years ago, he'd met Adrian Chun, a software engineer with a warm smile and patient demeanor. Adrian knew Dalton's history and loved every part of him. They'd gotten engaged 6 months ago, planning a small wedding for the following spring. Then came October, and everything changed. The Morrison case landed on Dalton's desk in early fall. Morrison Tech Industries was being sued for $50 million by a competitor claiming patent infringement. If Morrison lost, the company would likely go bankrupt. If Dalton won, he'd make partner, the youngest in the firm's history. "This is your moment," his boss, Margaret Sterling, told him. "Win this case, and you'll have everything you've worked for." Dalton threw himself into preparation. 18-hour days, weekends in the office, mountains of documents. The trial was set to begin in January, 3 months away. But in late October, Dalton started feeling off. Nauseous in the mornings, exhausted during depositions. His suits felt tighter around the middle. He blamed it on stress and too much takeout food. Then one night, while working late at the office, he felt something strange, a flutter in his abdomen, like something moving inside him. His blood ran cold. The next morning, Dalton bought a pregnancy test. He took it in the firm's executive bathroom, hands shaking. Positive. He bought 3 more on his lunch break. All positive. That evening, he went to an urgent care clinic across town. The doctor, Dr. Patricia Reeves, did an ultrasound. "You're 20 weeks pregnant," she said, showing him the screen. Halfway through, Dalton stared at the image, his mind reeling. "That's impossible. I'm on testosterone. I haven't had a period in over 5 years." Dr. Reeves spoke gently. "Testosterone isn't contraception. It reduces fertility significantly, but if you still have your reproductive organs and you're sexually active, pregnancy remains possible. You likely experienced breakthrough ovulation. Your ovary released an egg despite the testosterone. When sperm met that egg, conception occurred normally." Dalton thought back to August. He and Adrian had been celebrating their engagement. They'd been intimate multiple times without protection because Dalton genuinely believed he couldn't get pregnant. "Does your firm need to know?" Dr. Reeves asked. Dalton was silent. "I can't tell them. Not now. Not with the Morrison case about to start. If they find out I'm pregnant, they'll remove me from the case. They'll say I'm a liability. Everything I've worked for will disappear." Mr. Pierce, hiding a pregnancy, especially this far along, comes with risks. You need prenatal care. You need to reduce stress. "I need to win this case," Dalton interrupted. "After that, I'll figure everything else out." That night, Dalton told Adrian everything. Adrian's reaction was a mix of shock, concern, and something that looked like joy. "We're going to have a baby?" Adrian said, his hand moving toward Dalton's stomach. "I don't know if we're keeping it," Dalton said quickly. "But if the firm finds out now, I'll lose the partnership. I'll lose everything." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I need to hide this until after the trial. It's 3 months. I'll be 7 months pregnant by closing arguments. But if I'm careful, baggy suits, strategic positioning, I can do this. Adrian looked horrified. Dalton, that's insane. The stress alone could harm the baby.
Yeah.
I know, Dalton said, but I've been fighting my whole life. I can fight for 3 more months. The Morrison trial began in early January. By then, Dalton was 28 weeks pregnant. His belly was undeniably round, but he'd become a master of disguise. He wore custom-tailored suits with extra room in the middle. He carried his briefcase strategically in front of his stomach. He stood behind tables and podiums whenever possible. When colleagues commented that he looked like he'd gained weight, he blamed it on stress eating and lack of gym time. The courtroom became his stage, and every day was a performance. He delivered opening statements while gripping the podium to steady himself. He cross-examined witnesses while fighting waves of nausea. He reviewed documents late into the night while the baby kicked against his ribs. Dr. Reeves had reluctantly agreed to provide discreet prenatal care. Dalton's appointments were scheduled for early mornings or late evenings. The doctor warned him repeatedly about the risks: high blood pressure, preterm labor, stress-related complications. Your blood pressure is elevated, Dr. Reeves said at his 30-week appointment. If it gets any higher, you'll need to be hospitalized. It won't, Dalton said firmly. 2 more weeks. That's all I need. Adrian was supportive but terrified. What if you go into labor in the courtroom? I won't, Dalton said, though he had no way to guarantee that. I've made it this far. I can make it 2 more weeks. Week 6 of the trial. Dalton was 32 weeks pregnant. His suits barely fit anymore. He was in constant pain: back pain, pelvic pain, swollen ankles. He was exhausted beyond anything he'd ever experienced. But the case was going well. Margaret Sterling pulled him aside during a recess. You're doing brilliant work. When we win this, you'll be the youngest partner in firm history. Dalton felt the baby kick hard, as if celebrating. That afternoon, during his closing argument, disaster nearly struck. Dalton was standing before the jury when he felt it. A sharp, stabbing pain in his lower abdomen. Then another. Contractions. He gripped the podium, took a breath, and kept talking. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence is clear. Another contraction hit. He paused, pretending to consult his notes. The contractions were coming regularly now. Not close together yet, but undeniable. His water hadn't broken, which meant he still had time. He finished his closing argument through sheer force of will. When he sat down, he was drenched in sweat. His co-counsel leaned over. Dalton, you okay? You look pale. Fine, Dalton muttered. Just need water. The judge called for a recess before jury deliberation. Dalton made it to the bathroom before doubling over. He pulled out his phone and texted Adrian. In labor. Still in court. Don't panic. Adrian's response was immediate. What? I'm coming to get you right now. Dalton texted back quickly. No. Jury is deliberating. Could be hours. I'll wait. Adrian replied. You're insane. You need a hospital. But Dalton had already put his phone away. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Dalton spent that time in his office, door locked, pacing and breathing through contractions. They were 5 minutes apart now. His water still hadn't broken. He called Dr. Reeves. I'm in labor. Contractions 5 minutes apart. Get to the hospital now, Dr. Reeves said urgently. I can't. The jury is about to come back. Dalton, you could deliver that baby in your office, Dr. Reeves warned, her voice sharp with concern. Dalton took a shaky breath. 30 more minutes. Please. At 6:47 p.m., the jury returned. Dalton walked back into the courtroom, his gait stiff, his face pale. He sat at the defendant's table, hands gripping the armrests. Another contraction hit. He breathed through it slowly. The jury foreman stood. In the case of Morrison Tech Industries versus Hartfield Corporation, we find in favor of the defendant, Morrison Tech Industries. The courtroom erupted. Dalton smiled, nodded, accepted handshakes while another contraction tore through him. Excuse me, he muttered, and headed for the exit. He made it to his car before his water broke. He called Adrian. I won the case. Now get me to the hospital before I have this baby in a parking garage. Dalton's son, Oliver, was born at 11:34 p.m. that night. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. Premature, but healthy. Adrian cried. Dalton, exhausted and in shock, held his son and realized he'd done it. He'd won the case. He'd hidden the pregnancy. He'd delivered. But now came the hardest part, telling the firm. 3 days later, still in the hospital, Dalton called Margaret Sterling. Margaret, I need to tell you something. I had a baby. 3 days ago. I gave birth. I'm a transgender man. I was pregnant during the Morrison trial. I gave birth the night we won. Dalton, you were pregnant?
Oh,
During the entire trial? Yes. And you didn't tell anyone? I couldn't. I knew if the firm found out, I'd be removed from the case. Dalton, Margaret's voice was hard now. You put yourself and the case at risk. If you'd gone into labor during testimony, the entire trial could have been compromised. But it wasn't. I won. Morrison is saved, and I delivered a healthy baby. The partnership committee will want to meet with you when you're recovered. The call ended. Dalton stared at Oliver,
oh,
sleeping peacefully. He'd sacrificed everything to hide this pregnancy, to win that case. And now it might all be for nothing. 2 weeks later, Dalton met with the partnership committee. He brought Adrian and Oliver with him, making a statement. This was his family, and they were part of his life now. Margaret Sterling sat at the head of the table. Mr. Pierce, what you did was risky, potentially dangerous, and
yeah.
definitely not protocol. Dalton's heart was pounding. I understand. But I also delivered the biggest win this firm has seen in 5 years. One of the senior partners leaned forward. You also proved you're willing to hide important information from the firm. How can we trust you as a partner? Because I did what I had to do to succeed, Dalton said. I'm a transgender man. I've faced discrimination my entire career. If I told you I was pregnant, would I still have led that trial? Be honest. The room was silent. You would have removed me, Dalton continued. You would have said it was too risky. So yes, I hit it. And yes, I took a risk. But I won. And I did it while literally growing a human being inside me. Margaret looked at the other partners. Mr. Pierce experienced breakthrough ovulation while on testosterone, leading to conception. He managed to carry a pregnancy to near term while winning a $50 million case. Another partner shook his head. This is unprecedented. So is having a transgender partner, Dalton said. Which is what I'm asking you to be okay with. Margaret spoke. The committee has made a decision. Mr. Pierce, we're offering you a partnership. With conditions. You will work with HR to develop policies for pregnant attorneys. All pregnant attorneys, regardless of gender identity. And you will take 3 months of parental leave, effective immediately. Dalton felt tears prick his eyes. I accept.
Wow.
Dalton's story became national news. The medical explanation was clear. Transgender men who retain reproductive organs can experience breakthrough ovulation, even on testosterone. When sperm meets egg, conception occurs normally, and pregnancy develops in the uterus despite hormone therapy. After Dalton's case, several major law firms updated their parental leave policies to be gender-neutral, covering all pregnant people regardless of gender identity. Today, Oliver is 2 years old. Dalton is thriving as a partner at Sterling and Cross. He's back on testosterone and exactly who he's always been. A brilliant lawyer, a devoted father, and a man who refused to choose between his career and his truth. So here's my question for you. Should Dalton have told his firm about the pregnancy? Or did he make the right choice to protect his career? And what does it say about our workplaces that people feel they need to hide fundamental parts of themselves to succeed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story taught you something about sacrifice and impossible choices, share it. Because Dalton proved that being pregnant doesn't make you less capable or less of a man. He won a $50 million case while 7 months pregnant, delivered a healthy baby, and changed his industry forever.
Wow. That was the more law you eat is penalty to win his final case by JethroCool. The link to the video will be the description below. Go and check them out and drop a like if you like, and comment below if you want to see more reaction like this one, and subscribe if you're new, and click the bell so you can be notified when I upload and when I post and go live. And no more. Bye. Wow.